Hello, I'm John Hartledge. Welcome to my channel. Installment number 2 from Zanon Wines. And this is Scott Zanon's Petite Sirah. I highly look forward to not only tasting this, but discussing it with you. Petite Sirah, fascinating grape varietal, really beautiful examples coming out of California, particularly from the Dry Creek Valley. Let's chat wine. Okay, I'm going to do something a little different this episode. I'm going to open the wine first before I say a thing about it. Now, I know that does put the pressure on because I can't go back and put the cork in the bottle and redo it. So I'm going to just go for it. Because a lot of times I get that, that little joke from my audiences, live audiences and guests. John, enough. Pour the wine. So let's go right to it. Oh, why'd I put that away? Okay, let me get Scott Zanon's handy little dandy waiter's corkscrew. Get my technique, showing you the label. Look how I use the name Zanon, S-R-A, intersecting with the A of Zanon. You can find his really beautiful website at ZanonZinfandel.com, because Zinfandel, as I left this one in the shop because I did an earlier episode of Scott Zanon's Zinfandel, that really was his inspiration for becoming a winemaker. And it is the Zanon, the Zinfandel Old Vines. And so it's Zanon, Z-A-N-O-N, Zinfandel, no spaces. ZanonZinfandel.com, beautiful website. We'll tell you a little more about his wines. I'm going to taste the Petite Sirah. Oh my golly, I can already tell you right now, that is just the beautiful ink that I want to see from a Petite Sirah. I'm going to put a white background on that, and you can see how beautifully dark, almost black blue ink in color. And in an earlier episode, when I was talking about Scott's Old Vine Zinfandel, I was talking about blueberries, but I was thinking of Scott's Petite Sirah, the very best of Petite Sirah, if it can happen. And actually, Scott put it on his label in the description. There's this little essence of blueberries. It's what I hope for from a Petite Sirah, particularly from Dry Creek Valley, Sonoma, California. Amazing plethora of varied soils, adding complexity to all those wines. But Petite Sirah, I said I was going to taste first. Okay, sorry. He vints or vinifies his wines to about a 14% alcohol by volume. Now, for a point of reference, European, Spanish, Italian, French, 12.5 to 13.5% for most table wines. California is a little different because the growing season is just longer. So that's a longer time for the grapes to ripen and all that fruit to ripen. If it's going to ripen more, you're going to have more fruit sugar. So no matter what you do, especially in an area like this, I wouldn't say high desert, but it's a good 2,000 feet above sea level. But the soils are volcanic-based soils. They aerate very nicely, and they also drain very quickly. So you have dry conditions, and with dry conditions and good weather, you're going to have a lot of ripening. So you're going to have sugar, and no matter what you do, it's going to the grapes are going to want to ferment a little longer. And if they ferment longer, that means the yeast are going to eat less sugar and make a little more alcohol. Your challenge is that you don't end up with too much acidity or too much alcohol, because too much is going to be hot on the palate. So what do you want? You want fruit. So you want old vines, and he's dealing with grape growers in California that have older vines. Petite Sirah, beautiful example, by the way, and I do get, there is this little essence. It's the craziest thing. Now look, this gives me a perfect opportunity to talk about nuance. I've been tasting wine for the better part of 30 years. And when you first start tasting wine, you want big flavors. You want things that just like jump out at you, and you want to be able to identify them. It's not always possible with fine wine. The more your palate gets experienced with wine, the more you want to guess or not exactly know what is in there or identify exactly what that nuance is. There will still be nuances that are strong enough that you can identify. Oh, cinnamon. Ooh, I get a little tropical fruit, guava, pear, whatever it is, apple, blackberries. You will identify some, but your palate wants to, I don't know, just have a little more challenge the more you taste wine. And I think that's one of the fun things about wine. It's really what has fascinated me for 30 years about wine. And in that mystery, it breaks down so many barriers. I can sit down with a glass of wine with someone of a totally different financial status, so economic status, social status, anything, and it breaks all those things down because when it gets right down to it, it's personal taste. And you can't just enjoy a glass of wine over and over and over by yourself or a really nice bottle. Most people, winemakers, collectors, no matter what they make, no matter where their station is in society, they want to share. They want to go back and forth and talk about what they're experiencing because it's an amazing experience. And it really does take you away. But back to Petite Sirah. So Petite Sirah is technically, has one of my favorite grapes in it, is technically a hybrid. It's not a blend. It's an actual hybrid variety discovered by a gentleman by the name of Francois Dorif. It was Dr. Francois Dorif in 1860 in France. He was a botanist. And when you discover a new variety, a lot of times in the world of science, you get to name it. So it was the Dorif. It's technically the Dorif grape. That's D-U-R-I-F. And it is a hybrid of Syrah, my favorite grape, and Peloursin, P-E-L-O-U-R-S-I-N. A grape variety, Peloursin, is almost extinct today, but there are some little traces of it, but certainly in DNA, Petite Sirah. France really didn't take to the Petite Sirah. They really liked the Syrah from the Rhone Valley, so it didn't really take off in France, but there is one area in Provence where Petite Sirah is used. It was introduced in the United States in 1880s, so about 20 years later, and the early 1900s in Australia. It's beautiful, I think, from the Dry Creek Valley in California. And Scots, I'm going to decant it because I love decanting. There's just a little touch of tannin on the finish, but it's more of a structuring kind of tannin that gives that extra fruit something to kind of be balanced by. But he's, again, a beautiful example of full-bodied red wine that's not hitting you like a ton of bricks. It's not overdone, even though it's a grape that will, love that sound. It's a grape that will typically produce a wine that you almost want to be overdone. Petite Sirah, for me, is a wine that is a fun one to have as a standalone, with nothing else. No cheese, no food, nothing, although it will go beautifully with roast. It'll go beautifully with cassoulet and roasted vegetables and big flavored foods. But you don't need it, and you almost want it that way when you start enjoying wine like this. So now, decant it. Wow, it actually got more rounded and textured all the way through, and softer on the finish. And that's usually what aeration does. I have to say, the experience of, I don't want to say blueberries. Here's a bowl of blueberries, taste it, and I've tasted on the wine. No, the experience of a blueberry on your palate and the juiciness of a blueberry and swallowing that blueberry, that whole experience, there is an influence of that in this wine. And to its credit, it's beautiful. And I do have the bananas in the shot because, as I said in the past episode, I love to have the bananas as a palate cleanser, especially if I'm evaluating a wine. And Scott Zanon, as I've said before, is a wine guy's wine guy. He will appreciate that I'm cleansing my palate and retasting his wine and really digging down deep. Again, buy on fruit, sell on cheese. Excellent, even with a banana. No, it's just really nice fruit. It's elegant textures, really well-made wine. That's the Zanon Petite Sirah from Dry Creek, Sonoma. If you've enjoyed this as much as I have, please subscribe. So it's subscribe, sip, share. Make sure you select that bell because then that will give you the notifications. Not spam, but a nice little email when I come out with a new episode. Share this with your friends. We want to keep this going. It's a lot of fun for us to produce these shows. My team and I have a really good time, and we're very excited about the possibilities and the wines that will be coming your way and even the little influences of cocktailing and mixology. So until then, come see me again. Let's chat wine.